listening to Let's Talk About Ethics with me, Evie Wenting. And today I would like to introduce Sharon Seivert. Sharon is the founder and CEO of Core Coaching and Consulting LLC, where she works as the intersection of leadership, system thinking, and organizational health. A former CEO in healthcare and a business consulting, Sharon brings decades of hands on experience guiding leaders and companies through complex change with clarity, compassion, and strategic acumen. I have on with me Sharon Seivert, and I will let her tell us about everything she wants us to know about her core company. I am super excited to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to talk about ethics with you today. It's a very exciting conversation for me. I feel that I have landed in the Midwest, we would say landed in hog heaven. I've really landed with the ethics and compliance communities in similar souled and minded people. So I'm very excited to talk with you and others in the community about this. I feel like I've come to beautiful new shores with you and all you're doing in the world. So, my name is Sharon Seivert. I am here on the North Shore of Boston, Massachusetts, talking to you today. And I have a company called Core Coaching and Consulting. And we do what we call the Six Powers Integrated Performance System, which helps organizations build from the inside out, build from their core principles and purpose out to their entire strategic plan. So you can see why we are enamored of being connected with the compliance and ethics communities around the world. That's the work we do. I come out of healthcare and consulting, and I work with companies all over the world. We have people who do coaching around the United States in my company, and in Europe, we also have a good presence, and in some parts of South America. So we are ready to interact and meet and have people call us from any parts of the world to talk about this. My hope in our conversation is that we find where the intersections are. I'm convinced that the system that we have for strategic planning, leadership development, organizational health can support the compliance and ethics community in doing their damn job more easily so that it is of a fabric, it's woven into every part of the strategy of the company. That's where I hope we can help.
Oh, great. Great introduction to your company. I am super excited to talk to you about this topic because it's near and dear in my heart. And I think what you are doing with leaders is helping them understand the importance of ethics, compliance, integrity as a whole, and how values need to be tied to a mission statement and everything that the organization does. Love that because I think it's really important that from the beginning of one's employment, that those values and vision and mission are very clear on where the organization is so that you as an employee have the right to choose which kind of organization you want to work for. And I think more and more we see that some organizations do jobs better than others when it comes to showcasing the values, and not just showcasing because it's not just about the writing on the walls, but it's about living those values in an organization. So can you walk us through the process of how do you begin to work with an organization? What does that look like?
We, at the very beginning, although we are often called in when there's trouble,
Right. You are engaged with the company. Ideally, it is at the onset, so the vision and missions are clear, but sometimes troubles happens, and that's when companies realize they need to change in the way they've been doing things, and they will consult with you. So where do you start?
let me give you an example from, we work from the inside out. So our methodology is really simple. It's actually a human instinct. So you can drive this from this board level in the C-suite down to the factory floor. Everyone can understand this. We have children that we teach and they understand it. So what we do is like maybe in their annual strategic plan, and we start with having them clarify their purpose. And it's amazing how difficult sometimes this is because when people are nervous about market share, they'll sometimes grab other things. But really, what's your reason for being? Why did you start your organization? You can expand the core of the system, but it has to be defined clearly because everyone, like you say, who comes in needs to be part of this or supports the core reason for the organization to be in existence. And that also what we do at this point is look at the principles of the organization. And this is where our experience is that if people get this right, everything else floats downstream. Everything else goes much easier. And it's certainly easier for the compliance and ethics people to get their work done if people are referring all to their core purpose and their core principles. And those need to be lived. And then everything works more easily. So, for example, we are doing some case studies and KPI things for ourselves that we can talk about later on. But one of the fun ones is I have a Dutch colleague, and he was called in by the board to go into a company, and they were experiencing really a lot of fraud. Equipment was going missing. People were shading on their timesheets. All kinds of problems were happening. And my friend talked with the board and very quickly saw where the problem was. He's astute. And he said they wanted him to do a study and find out where the culprits were. And he said, no, the culprits are here in the boardroom. You need to remember and live your principles because if I was in your system, I'd be stealing too. I walked past that car that is over budget for you. I see this, I see that. So all of your workers are seeing you not do the right thing. So he worked with them. They instituted the suggestions that he made. And within a year, they had a 70% reduction in the measured fraud within a year's time.
That is fascinating. Yeah, 70% reduction in fraud. So it's and no, I've said this before. It's just like with little children, monkey see and monkey do. And
Totally.
I love bringing compliance and ethics to very simple, basic form that people can understand. If you want your employees to live the values that are on the wall, you have to be the example. And that
Totally.
goes from any manager level all the way to the C-suite. So if your C-suite is not taking your compliance training, how can you expect that the managers are going to take it, right? That's one lesson learned for me from my past of working and directing compliance programs. The more the leaders took responsibilities, the more the entire workforce understood it. And that's really what you're saying here.
Exactly. Yeah. And he really does put things on the line, but it worked. The other thing that was very notable about this case was that within that year's time, the person who had been about what my colleague was saying left the company.
Oh,
So it has a sorting out process. The people who don't want to do the right thing will leave.
yeah,
So the right people stay, the right people leave. So
yes.
isn't that fun, huh?
That's yeah, that is a great point, and I always say, when you showcase the right things at the beginning, those are the people you're going to attract because the people who have bad intentions will understand that they cannot get away with it, right?
The analogy that I make, because I am a professional musician, is that when you set the core reason for being, the core purpose and principles, it's like tuning an orchestra. So they are all tuned to the same note. That's your concert A. And it resonates throughout the system, throughout the whole system. So you find that it is harmony or not. There's dissonance. The people are not in tune. So this has ripple effects that can make your life really a lot easier or a lot harder. This first step, really getting it right, makes it all so much easier.
Yes, agree. So when we were chatting before, you were talking about the different core characteristics. Can you talk about those?
In terms of the process that we follow, so the six power system, and let me see if I can bring this up on, just imagine this. So the six power system is, think of the center, which is the core we just talked about, and the directions and the whole. That's our methodology. And it is a healing methodology from around the world. No matter where you are, you will see this methodology pop up. And it is endemic to human beings and how we feel healthy or in balance or out of balance. We believe it came from the image of the core of a human being and their four limbs. That's the image that we think it came from. It's that ancient. Again, you'll see it all over the world. So for cross-cultural, global organizations, this one's a boon because everybody gets it. So you start at the center and then you move around the compass. So you move to the east point, which is your vision. So the sunrise is your vision, and that has to be tied to the core. So a lot of times in organizations, I just don't understand all these really smart people. They're really not tying their vision to their reason for being.
And
You
I
got a finger raised there.
yes,
Yes, you know this one. What do you got? What do you got?
and I think in my experience, this has been because maybe it is not communicated well throughout the entire organization. And I can give you an anecdotal story when you're done, but I just wanted to point it out here. It's probably, if there is a difference in how it's perceived or communicated, is because the people who understand the core aren't doing a good job in communicating it across
Communicating
the
it.
entire
That, yeah,
organization.
that's one problem. And another problem is, or another issue is that the vision already exists in the organization. People already have their hopes and fears for the future, and they're not necessarily talking about it. So that's where your communication thing comes in. So when we look at this is who we are, and this is who we want to be in the future, or this is what we want to grow into, or this is the work we want to do in the world, then it's tied into the reason for being. And everyone, again, we're back to the orchestra. The piccolos are on board with the violins, and everyone is really on the same tune. So the vision then becomes a part of what everyone is working towards every day. That's the uplifting element. People are inspired. They have more hopes than fears if the vision is clear. And then the third step is about the fire element. This is about the mission, it's getting going. So that has to be tied to the ones that just happened. So the mission has to be tied to the vision, has to be tied to the core. So you see, this is the most probably important thing about this whole system is the integration. This is the integrated performance system. If we are integrating these things, if they're aligned, we're gold. If it's not aligned, then if our priorities do not support the vision and the core, we're on the wrong track for sure. And then we move into the next step on the compass, and that is your interactions piece, the relationships in the organization. People in the organization need to be fulfilling the mission and the vision and the core. And if that's all, everyone's on board with that, it's harmony. People are nice to each other. They're not crabby. We don't have this sexual harassment. We don't have hostility. It's because we're all in the same tune. And yes, and you have your finger raised again. Go for it.
And
Yeah.
I would say, so now it's an appropriate time to say or share my experience with
All
an
right.
organization. And it was a startup of sorts, an organization where the vision and the mission was support businesses, right? But it wasn't communicated well with some of the organizers. So their agenda was just different than supporting the services. They were almost looking for clicks and numbers as opposed to doing actually meaningful work and supporting services. And I would say to the client, I see this as a problem because either you don't understand what your mission is or all of you are not on the same page, right? And you could see it because then how they proceeded to respond would be affected by whatever that conversation was, right?
Totally.
What is your vision and the mission? So I see it firsthand in companies, and it's very important once you are centered and once you're tuning to really let the harmony go across the entire organization so that it is clear what that is, right?
Yes, exactly. When you take in this system, it's really very elegantly simple, is what I call it. It's elegantly simple, which is why children can get it and why people across the whole company can get it and start working together. It just is a little bit more logical. The last point on our compass is our strategic planning is it's the structure, the earth element. This is where we were talking about KPIs, right? So now where's the proof in the pudding? Now what processes do we need to take? Do we need new structure in the organization that can make us get our work done easier than it was before? So structures are often reconfigured at this point. Processes are reconfigured, the equipment we need. And we can also start measuring things. I had a case study that just came into me about a week ago from one of our new certified coaches, and she's just kicking butt around the block. She has a very positive company who's doing very well and want to do even better. They're scaling. So they don't want to lose the good culture they have. They don't want to lose the goodwill that they have among their people. So how do they do that? So that's the opposite end of we're in trouble, right? And now we want to prove we're getting out of trouble. These people wanted to upgrade and up level their company even further, which is kind of companies all of us want worked with, right? She had some very interesting data that she talked about. With her, they had team trust, for example, was something she measured. And that improved in a 6-month period she was studying. That improved from a rating of 5.5 to 8.2 in 6 months. Okay. Leadership trust increased from 4.5 to 8.3. And conflict shifted from a rate of every day or every week there was a problem, 100%, to a rarely or monthly thing of a 69%. Same day decisions, they were able to go from 23% to 54%. So they had these little increments, the measurements that mattered to them is what she measured. And she saw these things. She also said that firefighting time decreased from 64% to 30%.
Oh, that's amazing,
Isn't
right?
that amazing? Yeah. So the amount of time that the leaders, so this was the group of leaders that she was working with, and these are the improvements that they stated and that they got from their people. So this is where we can start to measure, see if we're going on the right track, or we need to make improvements. And of course, the last component in our strategy is what we call synergy. And it is connecting the dots, leveraging what's happening over here to make it happen over there. And this is where the magic happens. This is where you really get the performance improvements that seem like, how the heck did that happen? Are we lucky or what? And that's the kind of thing that I think when I first was introduced to the ethosphere, this is the sort of things that I noticed is that they were seeing with that 8.2% improvement compared to their competitors. This is where the magic happens.
Yes, I think when you create this organizational synergy across the departments, including when I see the work that we do in the ethics and compliance space, if we're able to transform each department by being part of it in the way, in the dotted line, being part,
Mhm.
that's the common understanding. That's how you can create the synergy and improvement across the organizations. I feel that what you're saying, like improved trust and finding out early about issues. If our managers, and this is what I teach, are the managers, is how to have those conversations with the employees early and know how to act on them. In that, it definitely works well with what you're saying, and it makes sense where those are the conversations that change the world in the way in the organization.
Yes. And you mentioned something here that I want to zone in on, I want to amplify, and that is the issue of safety. Do people feel safe enough? So the way we do our design and the way you guys are doing your work is how do we make people feel safe? And they don't. Most people do not feel safe. They don't feel safe that they're going to be able to keep their job. They don't feel safe that someone's not going to punish them. They don't feel safe that the boss has their back. They don't feel safe that they can be their real selves or give their real gifts. So these are issues that we address at every stage. We want to increase the sense of safety in the culture.
I was recently just speaking with someone who wrote a book and he had noted the psychological safety. So he was 22 years old in the finance industry. There were things happening he didn't understand. He thought it was part of the culture, right?
Uh-huh.
And there was no psychological safety to ask questions. In our conversation, I had asked him, what would you tell your 22-year-old self today?
Oh God, that's a great
From
one.
yeah, from knowing that you know, and he spoke about asking questions. What would you tell your 22-year-old self today entering the workforce? What would be the one thing that you think it's the most important that they know?
Very good. Yeah. How did you respond?
So he did speak about ask questions, be in a way brave to ask your immediate supervisor and a leader. Look at it from a big picture perspective and just ask for feedback on what is it actually meant by the things that I heard? Did I hear it the right way? Really,
Mhm.
sometimes it had to do with the culture and with it's been always done this way and welcoming an opportunity for maybe new pair of eyes seeing it in a different way. And so that's what I think. It's important to arm our young people with enough knowledge that they feel good about asking questions.
The one of the reasons I call our system in the Six Powers integrated performance system is because we want to work simultaneously with three levels: the individual workers, the leaders, and the organizational system. We want to move them through the process I described at the same time. So that will increase the safety for the workers. That helps the leaders a lot, not have to be dragging everything or pushing everything. And of course, the organizational system becomes more healthy. So we want to integrate all these people at these different levels as we go through the six powers that are integrated and help them build.
That's
Yeah.
brilliant. Yes, I
Well, thank
definitely.
you. I've worked a long time on this.